Today we're going to talk about subject. We've talked about the artist and so forth, so we're going to talk about the subject today, which I said was very important. So I've started a chart here to save some time. Up here is just to guide us a little bit here. Here's man, and this is Earth's climate. Going along pretty steady here. And then we have the Industrial Revolution, and the climate started to change. And it's getting way out of hand at this point. And hopefully it'll get back down to where it belongs. And if it does, there would be a point when things changed from this wild range here and started calming down, and we might say it would be Al Gore's film made everyone aware of it. I mean, other people were involved, of course, but let's say that was a turning point. People began to turn green at that point. Okay, I'm just using that for an example. So when I talk about the art subject, the artist subject, here we have another line here. Remember we talked about the artist in the cave? He started drawing on the wall that war that he saw between the fruit sellers and the meat sellers, and there was a fight, and they put it on that wall and so on. And from that point, we'll say that was the subject, was the war and what he saw. Subjects pretty much stayed in a narrow range because they had to be painted on walls. Not in caves, but then they began to be painted on buildings, and Greeks and Romans and Egyptians and so on. They painted on their walls. So the subject stayed pretty much the same. These grand battles that they had, and glorifying themselves for whatever they were doing, but it was pretty much limited to the walls. And so the subject matter was dictated by the society in general. Because the artisans who did that were paid either by housing and lodging or actual money. So then whoever paid them dictated what their subject would be. In other words, I want this building done with excuse me, the last battle we had over here, whatever, so that's what he does. But there was a change here, and probably around the 14th, 15th century, where the range of subjects began to expand. And the reason for that was, pardon me, someone figured out you could paint on sailing canvas and they would be mobile. You could paint on canvas and you can take them anywhere. So that expanded the subject matter. Suddenly kings they had to marry somebody in a far distant place, and they didn't know what the person looked like, so they'd send their painter over there and paint me a picture of this person so I'll see what she looks like. So he'd go over there and paint their picture and bring it back, and then he'd get to see what she looked like. So the range of subject then began to get wider. People and things they did and so on and so forth. Because they were mobile then. So that expanded until but still society still chose the subject. It was kings or it was people who wanted their portraits done and so on. They still chose the subject. So therefore artists trained to always paint what the society wanted, and so they were trained that way. You were trained to be a painter of society, and you painted portraits or so on, and that's what you trained to do. And then, but along came, in the 19th century, along came the Impressionist. And that changed everything. And it was not only the Impressionists. What the Impressionists did was this is what really revolutionized the subject matter. And that is paint in a tube. with this, the artist no longer had to stay in his studio and mix his paints so he could paint in his studio. With the tube of paint, he could actually go out and paint on site, paint landscapes and paint anything wherever he went, because he could bring his paint with him. So that revolutionized the subject matter. Suddenly there was all kinds of subject matter going on here that wasn't part of society's dictates. These artists decided they're going to get their own subject. They don't care what the standard subject is that were always being showed at the academies and so on. They said, we're going to get our own. And so they did. Well, then in around World War II, when the painting moved to, the Art Center moved from Paris over here to America, this subject went crazy. Till you got to the point where Ed Reinhardt's Black Canvas, where there's no subject at all, that became part of it. So you had this wild swing, like we had in the Earth's atmosphere up here. Climate change. We had the same in the art change and subject change. Pretty soon there was no more subject. And so what happened was, now we get to this point, and then we have Picasso here, about in here. And what we're trying to do now is we want to swing this back down, make an adjustment again, so that the artist and the subject become important. So there is a subject again. So one of the things we have to talk about is how this has happened, how we get this back down, and Picasso is the key to this. I don't know if I have time to finish this today. I don't think I do. I think we'll have to come back next week. So I'll save this chart for next week, and we'll pick up where we left off here. In the meantime, send me an email and go to my website, and I'll see you next week.